Hello and welcome back to CycleFab. I'm Larry. Today I want to show you something pretty interesting, and this has to do with lab metal. I found this stuff and I love it. It works great and it is a necessity if you're going to be powder coating, especially things that you've done body work to or manipulated in somehow, welding, machining, whatever it may be. Now, this is what it looks like. Hi-Temp lab metal. Now, there's some pretty interesting things about it. First off, when you get it, you'll probably be like me and think that, hey, I got a bad product, I got a bad can. The reason why I say that is because this is a suspension, not a solution. So if it sits for a long period of time, it separates. This is what it looks like just after a few days. And you can see here that it's very clear liquid type stuff on the top. I don't know what it is. I don't know what this product is actually made out of. But I do know that if it sits for an extended period of time, probably on the shelves at a warehouse before you get the product, it will definitely separate to the point that there's absolutely a definite clear liquid on top of a very, very firm substance. Now, when I say firm, I'm talking like red clay firm or like modeling clay when you first pull it out of the package. It's actually more firm than that. It's almost to the verge of being hard. I had to use a screwdriver in order to break it up before I could actually start mixing the product. That's how hard it was. So don't think that you got a bad product, you didn't. Now, when it comes to mixing the stuff, I use a paddle bit with the tip cut off of it. This is the only thing I found that would actually mix it up. Now, once you mix it or start mixing it, I should say, you'll see these big clumps rolling around, and that's normal. Just keep mixing, keep working it, make sure you get down into the bottom of the can, get a good thorough mixture on it. Now, once you get to that point, you're ready to use the product. Now, there's some things about using the product that are not on the can. I do highly suggest that you follow the directions on the can. If you don't, you will have a failure, especially with the Hi-Temp. I hear that the regular lab metal is a little more forgiving, but I'm not using that. I've never used it. This is the only time that I've ever used lab metal product. Now, I've got some test pieces here that I want to show you what to do and what not to do. First off, let's go ahead and apply this. Now, the best thing I've found to use with this is a putty knife, and it even says so in the directions, I believe. One thing that I found out, there's a few things I found out about it. When you go to finish this out, you don't want to take the material down all the way flush. You want to feather it, and that's why I have two blocks here. I want to finish one all the way down to the surface to where it's just flat, and the other one I'm going to feather in. And you'll see what I'm talking about later on after we powder coat it. First thing you want to do is kind of dig down in here. Now, after you mix this, set it off to the side and let it sit for about 20 minutes to get all of the air bubbles out of it. This has been sitting for exactly that 20 minutes and all the air bubbles are pretty much out of it. So let's go ahead and apply some of this. Make sure you get it down inside of whatever you're working on. It took me a couple of times to use this to figure this out. Okay, one, obviously it's just puddled up on there. The other one, I'm just going to leave it like that. Now, as the directions say, this needs to sit for 24 hours. After 24 hours, then you have to bake it at 425 degrees for 1 hour. And it's very, very critical that you do bake it at 425 degrees for 1 hour. That's to get all of the solvents out of it, to make sure that it cures properly. After the 24-hour period, this is set up pretty well. Do not try to finish it at that point in time. It won't work. Wait until after you bake it for an hour at 425 degrees. So let's let this sit for 24 hours, let it cure, then it'll go into the oven. Hey, if you are liking this video over lab metal, then please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Now let's get on with the video. Okay, we finally got these out of the oven, and I will tell you one thing, it is definitely hard. I cannot dig my fingernail into it at all. So it's prepped, ready to go to be sanded. Now, I'm going to take all the way down to bare metal, where you see a drastic difference between the metal and the lab metal, where the metal ends, aluminum in this case, to where the lab metal begins. Now on this one right here, it will be feathered in. Now what I like to use to do this with are 3 different types of metal removers. First off is my file. I've got several files, by the way. Another one is a ribbon sander. Now the ribbon sander I prefer over the 3M disc pad sander for doing flat surfaces because it keeps everything nice and flat. With the 3M sander, disc sander, I have a tendency to want to dig in, and that can really screw some things up. So that's why I just keep this with mechanical tubing usually. So I want to go ahead and do that. I'll show you the finished product of what I call feathering, and then the other one where I just take it down to where it's an even surface from metal to lab metal. Also, another thing I use is just emery cloth. That's to give the final touch to. When I start to get down close to where I want to be, I'll stop with the mechanical tools and I'll go to this. Okay, I got these sanded down and feathered out in a kind of a crude example, but it's the best means I have of showing you what I was talking about. The best way to do it is to just do it. Whatever project you're working on, you might want to make up a small project to start with and just practice doing this, because the first couple of times that I used lab metal, it did not come out well. But fortunately, I did use some pieces to test with because I didn't think that it was going to come out well. I don't know what I was expecting. I was thinking in my mind, I believe, that it was going to be something like putty or Bondo, but it is in a way, but it's not. It's a little more runny than that. Now it does set up very quickly to begin with. It gets this hard, tough film over it. It's still pliable underneath that film, but anyway, the only way you can understand it is to actually do it. But I do suggest using some kind of little test blocks or test project before you really invest into something expensive and very time consuming. So get to know this product first before you actually use it on something with a lot of investment in. Now we get the powder coat. Well, that came out better than I expected. Now I knew this just from using the product. That there's a discrepancy if you take it all the way down to the metal. In other words, if you have bare metal on this level and then lab metal right at the same level, that yeah, you're going to see a drastic difference. But I never set up any guided parameters in order for me to look at personally. I've just seen the after effects in doing my own work. Now, since I did this little experiment, there is a definite difference between the one on the right, which is the one that I took all the way down, the surface of the metal down to the surface of the lab metal are exactly the same, versus the one on the right, which I feathered in. And the one on the right, or excuse me, the one on the left is much better. It's more acceptable. The one on the right, well, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Now, like I said, these are test blocks, okay? That's not real world. But what is real world is this right here. Now, these are a set of Easton bars, $120 bars that I got off eBay used for 16 bucks. And the same goes for these brush guards here, all right, hand guards. I can't remember how much I paid for them, like 5 bucks, but these were trashed out. They weren't that bad, scuffed up, and so on and so forth. Well, in the process of me trying to bend them, I cracked one of them. And you can see the example right here, what it looked like before. Now I went and welded this up and finished it up, but my welding is not perfect by no means. I am not an expert welder, especially with aluminum. But I was able to get it stuck back together to where it's nice and strong. Then I went back with lab metal and feathered it in, feathered that crack in, and it came out looking like this. And then I put everything together, and this is what we got. It's pretty nifty. Now, if you want to see the video where I do these bars up, then just click right up here in the corner, your right-hand corner, and you can see that video. But I really like the way these popped out. So this looks really good. And it didn't cost that much, not for me. Like I said, 16 and 5, what was that, 21 bucks? Yeah, and of course, now I made these, and you can see that in the video also. But yeah, there you go, lab metal. And I cannot do without it, and I won't do without it. When it comes to projects, for me, personal, and for my customers that I work on, and for any bike building, because I use a lot of powder coating when I build motorcycles, I have to have lab metal around. Now, I do not work for these guys. They are not paying me. I get no money. I'm just telling you this as a subscriber, that if you do have a shop and you mess around with metal, you do powder coating, let me tell you something. You really need to get a hold of some lab metal. Honestly, this stuff is great. If you've liked this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next week. Thank you.